Welcome to Mindful Chatting. Have you ever had one of those days where you didn't actually do anything really that intense, but by the end of the day, you just felt completely fried? Like mentally done. You can't think clearly, you don't want to make decisions, and even simple tasks feel like way too much for you. And then there's this thought of, why am I so tired? I barely did anything today. But what if I told you that it's not about how much you actually did? It's about how many times your brain had to switch, decide, and then re engage with itself. Because ADHD burnout isn't always about overworking, it's about focus fatigue. And if you don't understand this, you'll keep trying to fix it by doing less when the real issue is how your brain is being used throughout the day. So let's get into this, but let's do it together.
Welcome to Mindful Chatting, a podcast where therapy meets real life. I'm Kristen, a therapist, business owner, and a lifelong student of what it means to fully show up in our relationships, in our work, and in our healing. Here, we unpack mental health concepts, explore mindfulness tools, and talk through the messy, beautiful, in-between moments that shape us. Whether you're a fellow clinician, a curious listener, or someone navigating your own growth, this space is for you. Let's chat.
We tend to think of focus like you either have it or you don't. And focus is actually an energy intensive process. So every time you focus, your brain is either filtering distractions, holding information in your working memory, inhibiting all of the impulses that you have, and then also maintaining your attention. That's actually quite a lot if you think about it. Now add ADHD to that, where your brain is already working harder and it's working harder to regulate that attention, ignore any competing stimuli that you have, and still engage without enough dopamine. So, what it feels like a normal day can actually be cognitively expensive for you. So, let's talk about something that drains you actually quite fast. Decisions. What to start, where to start, what to prioritize, what to respond to, what to ignore, and then what to do next. And here's the thing, ADHD brains don't automate decisions as easily as the neurotypicals does. So instead of running on autopilot, which a majority of people actually do, you're constantly asking, what should I be doing right now? That question over and over again drains your cognitive energy. So by the time you've made 50 small decisions throughout your day, your brain is like, I am so done with this.
If you're listening to this and thinking, this is exactly what I struggle with, I want you to know that I built something specifically for you. The EF, or Executive Functioning Activation course, walks you through why task initiation feels so hard with your ADHD and how to actually get yourself moving without shame, pressure, or burnout. It's short, practical, and designed for ADHD brains, not productivity culture. If starting is your biggest barrier, this course gives you structure, language, and tools that actually work for you. You'll find the link in the show notes.
Context switching is actually quietly destroying your energy. And this one is the biggest of our hidden drains. You're not just working, you're switching. You're switching from your email to a task, or a task to your phone, or your phone to another tab, or back to the original task. And then you get interrupted, and then you're trying to remember where you left off. If that sounds like you, that is context switching. Every switch costs you energy because your brain has to disengage, reorient, remember, and then re engage itself back again. Now multiply that by 30 times a day. That's not multitasking. That's constant cognitive resetting, and it's quite exhausting. So let's talk about the anticipatory dopamine drop. And this one is huge, and most people don't even realize it. Dopamine is not just about pleasure, it's about anticipation. So when your brain expects something to feel like boring or overwhelming or unclear or too big, your dopamine drops before you even start that task. And that creates that resistance that you feel. So now, instead of saying, let me do this particular task, your brain goes, oh, this is going to suck. And to be honest, it probably is. That emotional and neurological drop takes a lot of energy to push you through to do the actual task that you're supposed to. And then that adds the fatigue. And if you think about this too, we can have it in the other extreme. So if you're anticipating something being really exciting or really engaging and you get all amped up, your dopamine amps up. So your anticipation to do that one beautiful thing causes you to want to motivate and build momentum to do it. So you have that one extreme of the dopamine drop, but you also have one of the anticipatory of wanting to do something that's really engaging.
Okay, quick pause. Because you've ever found yourself rewinding this episode like 3 times because your brain just drifted, this is for you. I hear this all the time. I can focus, just not when I actually need to. And that's exactly what the focus course is about. Because here's the truth. ADHD isn't a lack of attention, it's a regulation issue, which is why some days you're locked in for hours and other days you're rereading the same sentence, wondering what just happened. So inside my executive functioning focus course, I break this down in a way that actually makes sense for you. We go through how your attention works in your brain, your specific focus patterns, why you get distracted externally and internally, and how to actually build a system that helps you stay on track and come back when you drift. Because the goal isn't perfect focus, it's knowing how to return without spiraling. So if you're tired of blaming yourself and you just want something that actually works with your brain, I'll link the focus course in the show notes. All right, let's get back to this episode.
Know about you, but there have been some days where I'll feel just fine. And then other days, I'm completely done by like 2 p.m. That's not random. It's actually cumulative. Things that contribute to all of these things can be like poor sleep, emotional stress, overstimulation, too many transitions, too many decisions, and then the lack of structure to all of it. So by the time you hit your midday, your brain has already used most of its available energy. So even small tasks feel absolutely impossible. And then when you finally get to do the things that you really want to do at the end of the day, you have no energy left for them. So this isn't laziness, it's actually load. This is where I want to be very, very clear in this. When you feel like you can't keep going, it's not because you're lazy. It's because your brain has reached its capacity. And when you ignore that, you push yourself into burnout.
If you want to understand your ADHD in a deeper way, I've created the ADHD Crash Course, and it walks you through ADHD step by step so that you can actually start understanding your brain and not shaming it. Everything's in small, doable lessons designed for your ADHD in mind. The link is in the show notes.
Now, this is where we shift. Not how do I push harder, but how do I work with my brain? Number one, let's reduce the decision load. We need to pre-decide where you can. So think about morning routines, think about work blocks, think about meals and priorities. The less decisions, the more energy you have. And this is where you're actually making decisions for your future self. So if you have a good morning routine, well, there's less for you to think about in the morning, right? More available energy for you. If you already have blocks of work, of time that you're setting aside to do particular tasks, and you already know what you're going to do when you get to that task, well, that's one less decision. You just show up to that block of time. If you are meal prepping and planning, well, that's one less decision about what you need to eat. If you think about what's a priority for that day, maybe 3 things you need to get done, well, that's less decisions when you show up for that day. So the less decisions, the more energy you have when you approach that task. Now I want you to think about limit context switching. So this is where we batch our tasks. So if we're going to look at our emails, we're going to look at them all together in one time block. And we're going to do it maybe 2 to 3 times a day, and that's it. So a lot of this has to do with boundaries and limits that you're setting upon yourself. Think about all of your administrative tasks. How do we batch this all together so that we're doing all of the context of that thing at one time? Or think about batching content altogether. If you're recording all your things, or you're writing, or you're doing all the thing, you're doing it at one time so that your brain centers on doing that one task. This gives your brain longer stretches in one lane without having to switch between contexts. Another thing is expecting your energy to fluctuate. We need to stop expecting that we're consistently the same person all day long. We have our energy flows and dips, and we need to expect those. So instead of asking, what do I have the capacity? I want you to think about, what do I have the capacity for right now? So I want you to not time batch all of those things if you have low energy dips in midday. That's not the time to be doing that. If you have the availability to do so, batch it in the morning, or batch it when you know you have this energy drive so you have less fatigue when you show up there. Then I want you to think about starting before your motivation drops. Don't wait until you feel ready to do something. I want you to start when your resistance to something is low. And even if you do one little thing with that, well, that was a lot closer than you were before you started. And lastly, I want you to build some kind of recovery system to what you're doing. Breaks are not an option. Breaks are part of your productivity. So even if they're 5 minutes, even if you just walk around the room, even if you just block out any stimulation, you need to reset your brain if you're going to be context switching, to tell your body, okay, now it's time to disengage, and this is what I need to do to re-engage. This is something I'm going to go deeper into in my executive functioning and focus courses. There's links in the show notes if you're interested in going deeper into the subject to help you understand your brain. Because once you understand how your brain uses your energy, you stop trying to force productivity on yourself, and you start building systems that actually work for you. And I'll leave that all in the show notes if you want to check it out. If you feel like you're burned out faster than other people, you're probably not doing too little. You're probably doing too much mentally, and you have too many decisions, too many switches, and too much internal effort. And once you start reducing that load for yourself, you don't just feel better. You become more consistent, you become more focused, and then you feel way less drained, which is the goal, right? I want to thank you for joining me on today's Mindful Chatting episode. Be sure to look out for our executive functioning courses as they roll them out if you want to know more about this subject. And as always, be gentle with your mind.
One more thing before you go, and this helps me personally, staying present and grounded, which we all need, especially when your brain wants to spiral into disconnection. Me too. It's Brain FM. It's musically designed to help ADHD brains, well, really anyone's brain, focus, relax, or sleep, and I use it almost daily. If you want to try it, I've dropped my link in the show notes. And if you're looking for planning tools or ADHD-friendly resources, I'll keep a list of my favorite links in every episode.